you signed it yet? Okay, when you're done, then go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I'd like to welcome you to Planning Commission meeting this evening. This is Planning Commission meeting for July 27th, 2021. This meeting is being recorded. I'd like to welcome all of you who are here this evening as residents or who have items on the agenda. We're going to begin our meeting. This meeting is being recorded, and we're going to begin our meeting this evening with an opening prayer by Commissioner Johnson and then a Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Showers.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity we have as residents and representatives of the city of Lindon. We're grateful for this great city that we live in and for the opportunity we have to have the many freedoms that we have here. We ask that to please bless us with wisdom and insight as we deliberate the matters before us today, that we might be able to make decisions that are in the best interest of those who live here and the city as a whole. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll begin our meeting with an audible roll call of the commissioners. Sharon Call, here. Mike Marchbanks is excused. Jared Showers.
Here.
Rob Callis.
Here.
Stephen Johnson.
Here.
Scott Thompson.
Here.
And Renee Tribe is excused this evening. And the next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. This is for the Planning Commission meeting for July 13th, 2021. And commissioners have received those minutes ahead of time, had a chance to review those. Are there any changes or corrections? I didn't see any. I thought they looked great. So do I have a motion for approval?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a time for public comment. This would be for any items that are not already on the agenda for this evening. Anyone here for that purpose? Okay. The next item on the agenda, item number 4, this is a minor subdivision approval for Honeycomb Heights, 578 North, 800 East. And our applicant is Millhaven Construction. And our presenting staff is Michael Florence. And I believe you're here representing Millhaven, is that right? If you want to go ahead and come up again. You're making lots of appearances at Planning Commission the last while, aren't you?
Right. We don't plan to stop.
Okay, good. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners. You're familiar with this property. We reviewed it at the last meeting for an exemption to the hillside ordinance. The applicants are now back for the subdivision. Currently, there are 2 parcels on the property. The lane here off of 800 East is one parcel, and then the flag portion of this lot is the second parcel. So they're proposing to combine those into one lot. So I have before you the subdivision plat, and the property's 4.47 acres. I did find one error in my staff report today as I was rereading it. I put that the flag portion was 2.73 acres. It's actually 4.27. I originally went off this 1 to 40 scale right here, but as I remeasured it today, it's a 1/50 scale. So the flag portion here is actually 4.27 acres. So as we went through the different requirements in the subdivision code, and those are outlined in your staff report, all of the items of the subdivision code are met. All the setbacks will be able to be met. Here's a copy of the site plan. So what the ordinance says is doesn't matter the orientation of the home on a flag lot. It just the front setback is considered the one that's parallel to the street. So this is the front setback of the home here. It's actually the back of the home, but it's considered the front setback. The 30-foot setback is met. Same with the rear setback of 30 feet, and then the side yard setbacks of 15 feet. There will be a hammerhead turnaround that will be improved in this location. The ordinance requires that they be within 200 feet. The dwelling be within 200 feet of a fire hydrant. This home will be within 110 feet of the fire hydrant. So with that, the city staff have recommended approval of the one lot subdivision. We're finishing technical reviews right now, and then we'll be able to record the plat, but staff has recommended approval of the Honeycomb Heights one lot minor subdivision with the following conditions: that the applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the engineering documents and plat. Complete warrant and post required assurance for all required public infrastructure improvements. Prior to the plat recording, the applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include notarized signatures of owner's consent to dedication and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat attached here too. The plans and plat will meet and be constructed as per specifications as found in the Lindon City Development Manual and all items of the staff report. One other item I just wanted to kind of bring to your attention. So this subdivision was actually approved by the city in 2007. However, due to all I can think of as economic reasons, in the downturn at that time, the plat was never recorded, and so this plat follows exactly that same plat from 2007. So. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions along with the applicants.
I think we asked a lot of questions last time, and most of those were resolved. That's an interesting, I'm very familiar with where this is at, and that's an interesting name, Honeycomb Heights.
Yeah, our client, they picked it.
Yeah.
They like bees, I guess.
I don't have any other questions. Anyone else?
Where is the fire hydrant on this plan?
Right, just
Oh,
north of
the hammerhead, on the left side of the hammerhead.
right there, yeah.
That's where they fire.
It'll go right
Marshall
there.
wanted it. They wanted it on that side of the hammerhead.
It's a proposed fire hydrant. We will be installing it, so it's
Yeah.
not existing.
So where, do you have to run the line up from the main street up to that point?
Correct. There's already an existing easement through the park.
You can see this dotted line right here on both sides.
Yeah.
So there's already a pre-existing easement the city signed back in 2007 or whenever that was, for water line and sewer line to go through this area.
So you bring the fire hydrant up there and then tap in for your culinary water source. Okay, thank you.
And that's going to be enough to have a swimming pool and all these things you're talking about?
Yeah, we sized it for that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't have any other questions. Are we ready for a motion?
There is an adjacent property owner here. I don't know
Is,
Mr. Taylor has
okay, I'm sorry.
if any kind of comment or question for the developer.
Yeah, and even though this isn't a public hearing, we would allow public comment. So go ahead, sir. And if you'd give your name?
Ernie Taylor.
Okay.
I apologize for coming in late, so I missed part of it. So can I just ask a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
So it's phase one lot, property staying one lot,
Yes,
and one dwelling,
yes,
Yes.
and the dwelling is on the, what I call the baseball field?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. And how high is the house?
It's a two-story house, so it'll be under the 35-foot limit for sure. I don't know exactly where it is from grade, but it's below the 35-foot limit, starting from that grade of the baseball field.
Yeah, the main floor of the home will sit right at that baseball elevation, so.
We worked through a lot of those details at the last commission meeting, so that's why this is going so quickly, is because this is just the subdivision approval.
We talked about the hillside.
Yeah, all the
All that
ordinance
stuff.
and the hillside, all those things last time. And the road going up into it, and the flag lot, all those things. So,
Require more retention because of the hill?
We will be doing some retention. We're taking out the tennis court to accommodate the driveway. So we're gonna leave that retention wall that's already there for the tennis court. And then we will be doing some retaining on the house side. We're trying to stay away from that edge that goes down the hill.
The west boundary.
Yeah, the west boundary, but there could be some retaining there. But if that's the case, we'll definitely protect from any slough off or drainage down into the other properties. Is that where
Wait.
you are?
I'm right above, I'm the lot above.
Above it.
Above the tennis court.
Oh, okay. So you'll have a good view of what's going on
Yeah.
down there. Sweet.
okay. Yeah.
So no building above the retention?
No, if you go, so Mike, go back to the plat, you can see on the plat what is designated, the shaded area there is designated as remaining natural, that can't be graded or touched at all, the really dark hatch. So all of that area is above 40% grade, and so per the hillside ordinance, we won't be touching that. So,
Are you the owner?
No, we're the builder. We have a client.
Any other questions? Or- Okay, okay. Are we ready for a motion then?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the applicant's request for the Honeycomb Heights one lot minor subdivision approval with the following conditions as read by staff and shown in the report 1 through 5.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous, and it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Watch that go up.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is actually items 5 and 6. This is the site plan and the minor subdivision approval for Rhino Realty LLC, 570 North State Street, or the Lobick Sales property. And our applicant is Rhino Realty LLC, and our presenting staff is Anders Bate. Anders, go ahead.
Thank you. So this application is for both a minor subdivision approval and a site plan application. So to go over the minor subdivision, it's a one lot subdivision that will be consisting mostly of the parcel that's it's currently 1406700187, and a portion of another parcel that consists of the remaining 11 and a half acres of this property. So this will create one lot that's about 1.9 acres, and then the remaining property will just stay as a remaining parcel. So that will be subdivided at a later time. So it would just be this one lot subdivision for that one lot. The subdivision meets requirements for lot size and frontage, and all other subdivision requirements. So I'll go over the proposed motion for the subdivision. So that is to approve, deny, or continue the applicant's request for minor subdivision approval with the following conditions. One, the applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the engineering documents and plat. Two, complete or post an adequate improvement completion assurance warrant and post required assurance for all required public infrastructure improvements. Three, prior to plat recording, the applicant will update the final plat Mylar to include notarized signatures of owner's consent to dedication and obtain signatures of all entities indicated on the subdivision plat attached here too, and for all items of the staff report. So now going over to the site plan. So the site plan is to develop the property into a vehicle display lot. Go to that here. So this will be a parking vehicle display lot for the Lobuk Sales property. The existing Lobuk Sales property will continue to operate as it has to the north, and this lot will just be added on to their business. The parking for Lobuk Sales was reviewed when the property originally received site plan approval, and it is being met for that business. This property will all be accessed from this one point to the lot to the north, the Lobuk Sales to the north, so there won't be any access onto this lot from State Street. So for landscaping, this is the proposed landscaping plan, and I'll go over some items for that. So the applicant has provided on the plan a 20-foot wide landscaping strip that's required along all public street frontages, and that also meets the correct amount of vegetation cover. One requirement is that there be trees every 30 feet, which is not being met by this plan. There are about over 100 feet between the trees. And then commercial lots are also required to have 20% of the lot in open landscaped area, which is being met in this plan. In addition, there's a requirement that for every parking stall, there be 40 square feet of interior landscaping, and the landscaping code or the parking code describes what landscaping counts as interior parking lot landscaping. And this plan does not have the correct amount of interior parking lot landscaping. It's about 2,500 square feet short for that. And then also the area that does qualify as that type of landscaping does not meet the required 75% of living vegetation or ground covers. And then I guess to continue, they do have the required amount of trees, which is 19 for the site. So I'll just stay on this, but one item of portion of the landscaping code states that landscaping requirements concerning berming, trees, and landscape materials can be changed and or altered with regard to location and design upon approval of the Planning Commission at the site plan review stage of the application. So that's tonight. No net loss of landscaping should occur with any approved alterations. Other landscaping layouts consistent with the Lindon Commercial Design Standards may also be considered by the Planning Commission. So with that section, that does allow the Planning Commission to give an exception to the trees that are supposed to be every 30 feet. So the Planning Commission could approve the plan as is with the 3 trees along State Street. However, it does state that no net loss of landscaping can be approved, so that missing 2,500 square feet of landscaping does need to be shown on an updated version of the plan.
One thing as staff, as we thought about the trees along the front, weren't necessarily concerned because this is a car dealership and you're supposed, that's one thing that's important is to be able to have that vision.
The
to
visibility.
That visibility. So they do meet the tree requirement. They've made up for that in other locations. But so as staff, we weren't as concerned about spreading those trees around, or at least along State Street.
One thing I've seen done is take the same number of trees that it would have been with the spacing and then let them cluster them, so that they can have their visibility, but maybe you put 3 trees together over on the triangle point or something, but, yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't make sense to have a tree every 30 feet
Right.
and lose your visibility.
But if you read it right, they have to make up that 25% somewhere else, and that's in some other form of landscaping, or?
So there's, I guess, 3 kind of requirements that aren't being met. One is the trees every 30 feet, and then,
And by that, in that code, you're allowed to move
Yeah.
those trees around.
and I guess, so another requirement that is being met is that you have to have 1 tree for every 10 parking stalls, which would be 19 for this site. So there is 19 on the site, but I guess if you were to add a tree every 30 feet along the landscaping strip, that would be more than 19. So I guess they aren't making up for those trees, if that makes sense. But yeah, then the other 2 requirements about the additional parking lot landscaping is, and then the % vegetation that's needed for that landscaping is not being met.
Is one thing, our ordinance, so that back section of landscaping, it's 54 feet, but the parking code says you can only count 10 feet of that. And so they meet the 20% requirement. They just, by the interior parking lot requirements, you can only count 10 of that 54 feet. And so the other thing is that the ends of the aisles would be required to be landscaped as well. So some of that 54 feet could be put in the end aisles there.
And the way I understand that is by ordinance and planning commission, I mean, the trees, we can say you can move those around and put those in different locations, but on this other landscaping, that's by ordinance, and so we don't have the ability to not require that.
That's correct.
I do like the buffer, though, between what probably is gonna be residential on the east side and even having some additional trees on that east side, though, because I think that looks better. And creates a better buffer between this commercial and the residential that probably will go there.
So to address that missing landscaping, that's kind of in the first proposed condition of the motion, it addresses that. So I'll go over that proposed motion for the site plan.
Now, Anders, when we make these motions, the site plan motion come before the subdivision?
We put the subdivision first,
Right, and that's
and
okay?
then the site plan.
Yeah, for us to
Um,
do that.
Yeah,
Now, Anders has this as a condition of approval with the landscaping, but we've had a very difficult time getting a landscape plan that meets our ordinance. That's just been ignored by the applicant multiple times. And so I don't know if that's something you want to bring back in a couple weeks, or how comfortable you feel with staff continuing to work with them on the landscape plan.
So, well, if we have this as a condition, if they don't do it, then they can't proceed with their site, because the site plan is not complete.
Right.
So either way, they're forced to resolve it.
Did we ask the applicant, is there a reason for the resistance?
Hi, I'm Steve Tobias with KW Commercial. I represent Rhino Realty. So the logic behind what we're trying to accomplish with the landscape that we've proposed, number one, we've already addressed lesser trees along the frontage of State Street because this is our sales window. We have on the interior parking lot landscaping, you can see that 2 of those parking rows do have parking, landscaping around it. The last 2 rows do not.
Real quick, we were told those were just painted. And that's what is identified on the civil plans, that those are just painted.
Okay, then they're all painted.
What do you mean painted? I'm trying to have it.
Those
It's concrete.
areas- No, they were just lines. They're just painted areas for no parking.
So there's no curb there or
There's no
anything?
curb.
Okay, so anyway, getting back to the point was, the big rocks of your ordinance we've met, the 20% landscaping, the 19 trees. The reasoning behind not having a lot of interior landscaping in the parking lot is, number one, it's not a customer-based parking lot, it's a sales lot. And so the necessity to have trees to cool parking for customers isn't there. Trees attract birds, birds make a mess. We're just trying to minimize hassle factor. The other issue that brings to bear here is where we have met the 20% landscaping, if we start adding more interior parking lot landscaping, then that's chewing up inventory parks that we can be using to sell trucks. The more trucks we have, the more sales we can make, the more tax revenue can be generated for the city. So we felt like we've met the landscaping. We're just trying to match what's been done in our existing low book sales scenario. And so that's why we've presented what we've done.
Well, there have been some commercial design guidelines, and not guidelines, requirements that have been put into place since, isn't that accurate? Since your original location was put into place. And it's like I said to start with, though, we don't have the discretion of changing those because it's outlined by ordinance. And so, I mean, you
So
can
this
move
ordinance
trees.
here doesn't outweigh the other ordinance.
What do you mean?
So you've got in the staff notes, we're mentioning here that section 1748.030 of the city code allows you as the commissioners to have some latitude on what gets approved.
On the placement of trees though, because
Not-
there's language that says it shall not reduce the overall landscape.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so-
we've met the 20%.
And we've never said trees have to go in those landscape islands.
Correct.
Those can go on the perimeter, so they won't have a problem with birds on the interior. This is the exact same requirements that you required of Murdoch Hyundai,
Right.
when they came through with their dealership.
Well, I think Dasher Auto asked for the same thing, we rejected it, told him he had to do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we understand your reasoning.
Yeah.
We understand your reasoning and it's all there, but we're bound by the ordinance. The only way that changes if you have the ordinance changed, which that's unlikely.
Yeah, because it's the commercial design standards or
Yeah.
requirements. So I don't know if you want to work with staff on that?
We will.
Or if you want
We
to bring
can-
a landscaping plan back to us?
If that's the position that you guys have to take, then we'll comply and do what we need to do, because we want to get selling trucks.
Right, right, and we want you to too.
Yeah.
So if I understand what staff has said, they don't have to be trees. They can be just planters with other low-growing landscaping or something, so.
That doesn't require
Does it have to be
birds
organic? I
trimming.
mean, can it just be rocks or gravel? I mean, it
So
doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I can read here what it says for that. So it's Landscaping for the interior parking lot landscaping shall consist of 75% vegetation, including ground cover, trees, and shrubbery. So,
The commission can work on adjust materials if you see there's a need, but you could reduce that 75%, if you wanted to, of vegetation, if you see that there is a prevailing need to do that.
But I don't see really a prevailing need to do that if it's not trees that are gonna do droppings and things like that.
Well,
A lot of times when
that
we-
is a clarification I wanted to make, because he's saying it needs, trees is included in that list. And so if you're okay with not having trees,
No,
that
we're
would be
gonna
a
need
big
to have
benefit
that,
to
but
us.
your placement of those trees can be varied. They
Right.
don't have to be every 30 foot along State Street.
But
that
what,
type of
what
thing.
he's mentioning is the interior parking lot landscape requires trees, and we don't want that.
He says it does not.
I agree, I wouldn't want trees there either.
Your
I think
trees
those-
can go, your perimeter, your interior trees can go on the perimeter and count, just like they're proposed here.
If you listen to what he said, he indicated three things that can be, not shall be.
Okay,
So you don't need to add trees. If you put something on the end of the stalls, that can just be bushes. That does not have to be trees, because you've already met your tree requirement in the perimeter.
great. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. And if you're willing to continue to work it with staff so that you can meet that requirement, it does have to be met,
Okay,
then we could make it a condition of approval.
okay, let's do it.
One more question. Chairman, maybe we can bring it up in the next one, but when we talked about this some months ago, one of the concerns is that there would be adequate parking for employees on site. With the combination of this and low book sales, will that be there? And if not, could that large landscape area in the rear be one more row of parking for employees, or what's the situation there?
My understanding is they're making adjustments in phase one to accommodate all of the employee parking.
Oh, okay.
The ordinance, the car dealership ordinance does require 20, is it 20, how many? Let me look that real quick. We do have required, stalls shall be clearly designated as customer or employee stalls, and there is a parking requirement. I mean, as part of the site plan approval, we can make sure that they have
Yeah.
employee parking designated with signs that meet the ordinance.
Do we add that to the site plan motion?
As a
Are
condition.
they handling that on the lot to the north? Isn't that what you?
Well,
you're
it
saying?
doesn't matter, I don't think, where they put it, as long as it's there for.
How
the
many
entire project.
parking spots are required?
What's the ordinance? Andrews, you've got it right.
for employees?
And for vehicle dealerships. I believe it's in here.
Question, so you're subdividing this off, are you assembling it with the other parcel? Does it become one big parcel, or are you still keeping two?
Well, our
lots?
financing and everything else at this point is all on the existing. So we'll be getting new financing to develop this lot.
So they're gonna encumber both lots, is that what you're saying?
They're separate loans.
Oh,
Okay.
so it will remain a separate lot? That's what I'm trying to understand, is it gonna be a separate lot when you've got this built out?
Well, I think eventually, when they refinance, they'll get it all under one scenario. But for the immediate, we've already encumbered, phase one with its own financing. We're doing a second loan here to develop the lot.
Didn't we already ask that question previously to Low Book Sales, and they said they were gonna bring it all together under one lot, because we were concerned that somebody down the road can come, this isn't working, back off and then just sell this lot for something else?
Well, that's
I
kind of what I
heard
was,
there was some discussion we had.
well, that's kind of what I was asking, but I don't think you're gonna get an entrance or an exit onto State Street, but they could come out of the south, where maybe a new road's gonna come in to service the residential, but I don't see a problem with somebody repurposing that in the future, but if it's under one lot, they wouldn't
Well,
be
that
able to
was
do
one
that.
of the concerns is it
Well, I think
being
that issue
repurposed?
was raised and developed and approved when we rezoned this for this sales lot purpose. It's the intention of Low Book to continue, I mean, the whole point of this is to create truck land.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I think we did work through all of that previously when we were doing the zoning.
I just think we came to the conclusion there couldn't ever be an access from State Street onto this lot. So it
Not
could-
if the proposed development goes in.
Right, so it'd be very difficult to make it a separate car lot. I think that was our bigger concern, that it would become two car lots.
I mean, I haven't done this, I think it was 200 feet between drive approaches.
Right.
I haven't measured that, I can't remember what the frontage is right there, how many feet, but, yeah, I mean, when I talked to the owner as well, that was his intent, at some future date to consolidate them into one lot.
So we
You say
probably-
one lot, one parcel?
To combine combine the existing and the new one, but it was financed,
Well,
now he couldn't, but.
it is all one truck part sales lot. But it's two parcels, yeah.
So did we decide that we needed to add the employee parking designation on the site as
I think we
a
should.
condition?
I think we should, but is that just basically we're adding a statement, say this site plan will work with staff to
Designate,
meet the city's employee parking standards?
Right, you can do that to designate employee, parking as per the city code.
Does that go under the site plan motion or the minor subdivision? Site plan, that's what I thought.
okay. Okay. This isn't a public hearing, but we do allow interested people to make comment or ask question if you have those. Are any of you here for that purpose? Anyone here with concerns on this? Okay, all right. I don't really have other questions other than the landscaping and the employee parking. Anyone else have concerns or questions that we haven't addressed previously?
Kind of on the landscaping, I'm just looking at what's currently there. Ordinances changed since,
Right.
any intention to try to match current frontage with the two picket fence, or is that coming out on the other?
It's not required.
It's not
this
required
time.
anymore. It used to be required.
My understanding, Dave wants to match, so it looks like it's the same.
Same, so
Yeah.
either take it out on one or put it in on the
Right.
other. Okay.
Yep.
And it looked like the trees probably used to be, I'm trying to look. I think some of them are 30 feet apart, and it looks like probably some have died and been taken out. I don't know if that's any big deal, but,
On the-
there's some
on the
big
existing
spaces on the
site?
existing site. There's some that look like, so I don't think that will be a non-match. I was just curious if that was the intent, was try to match it so that it looks like one continuous
Yep,
piece.
that's
Even
it.
though the ordinance has changed, I mean, there's the berm and everything that you used to have, and I'm assuming they'll try to match that.
Commissioners, just to clarify one thing, so the plat does show the frontage is 400 feet. So, you know, if
Good.
you gave them approval, they probably could have access to that property. at some
Okay.
point.
Because it could be right in the middle if there was one on each side. Okay.
But as far as right now, that,
Fine.
I mean, that isn't the intent.
Right.
And I know things can change, but at this point, there isn't gonna be an access there.
Right. We're accessing it from the existing car lot.
Okay.
And Mike, I'm assuming our decision on whether it could be a car lot or not is already sailed, because we gave it that approval. So, okay.
Well, why don't we go, and if there isn't additional questions, why don't we go ahead and make the motions, and we'll need to do two motions, one for the minor subdivision and one for the site plan.
I'll do the minor subdivision motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the applicant's request for minor subdivision approval with the following items, number 1 through 4, listed in the staff report, as previously outlined.
okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous. And now we need a motion on the site plan.
Since that's a different agenda item, you probably need to go to item number
6? Okay. That was item number 5 on the agenda. The site plan motion is item number 6 on the agenda. And so we can go ahead with the motion, though. Okay, do I have someone that would like to make a motion on that?
I can attempt to do a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the applicant's request for site plan approval with the following conditions. 1, an updated landscaping plan will show that 40 square feet per parking stall of interior parking lot landscaping will be provided, and that 75% of the interior parking lot landscaping consists of living vegetation according to section 17.18.085 of the Lindon City Code. 2, the applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the engineering documents. 3, the plans will meet development specifications as found in the Lindon City Development Manual. 4, the applicant will comply with all bonding requirements if applicable. Number 5, the applicant will work with staff in designating employee parking on the site as required by Lindon City Code. Number 6, all other items of the staff report.
okay. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
Thank you.
So will this have you work with staff on those
Okay.
final things that need to be taken care of? Thank you so much for coming in again. Okay, the next item on our agenda, this is a site plan approval. This is for Lindon Fizz at 195 North State Street. And our applicant is Shelby Holmes. Is that you, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Our presenting staff is Anders Bake, and we'll let Anders go ahead.
Thank you. So this application is for a site plan to develop the property at approximately 194th State Street. It's currently a vacant property, and the applicant is proposing to develop it into a commercial building with 3 units, and one of those units will have a drive-through area for a Fizz business. So the parking, with the information we have right now, to calculate the parking code would require 16 stalls, and the applicant's provided 14 stalls on the property, and have kind of provided as, or sorry, we require 14. Yeah, they have either 6, if they have over 14, and they've kind of done what they can to provide as many parking as they can on the site. And for landscaping, they've met the landscaping requirements, meeting with the 20-foot landscaping strip, the interior parking lot landscaping, the appropriate amount of vegetation cover, and then a 10-foot setback from, of landscaping from residents. So some of the site requirements, go to the site plan here. One requirement in our code is that any commercial building has to have a 40-foot setback from the property line that's adjacent to a property with a residential zone or use. And the property to the south is zoned commercial but has a residential use. And so that building had to be 40 feet from that south property line, and then they're meeting the other building setbacks. And so that's why the kind of the drive-through route is kind of less than ideal, but that was kind of had to be that way in order to meet those building setback requirements. And the site is also meeting other requirements for area and street frontage. And then going to the so here's the site, the landscaping plan with the proposed vegetation, and then the building renderings. The applicant is, with the building rendering, has broken up the building to meet commercial design standards with a variety of materials and colors. They're proposing a flat roof that is including parapet and cornice designs, and a wood canopy. For building materials, the materials have 61% of the rock and windows to meet that requirement for the front facade. The remaining portion is stucco, and then the other sides of the building have mostly stucco with some stone. So okay, so go to the proposed motion for
Before
this.
you go there,
Yeah.
would you restate the parking? You kind of confused me, or I
Okay,
lost-
so yeah, we know that one of the units is a drinking establishment, which that requires 8 parking stalls, and then the remaining 2 units we're just considering a other retail, because we don't know the future use of them. The applicant doesn't know that yet, and so that is one per 350 feet. So total, that's 14 stalls for the site.
14 total?
14 total for the whole site, yeah. And I think, yeah, like,
Well, he's counting stalls. I believe our Fizz location is being required that many stalls as if it was sort of like a restaurant. Is that right, Mike? I mean, it's requiring parking as if people were going inside and sitting down like they would in a McDonald's or something, which they're not. It's a drive-through, so it's probably being required more. You know, we're in a category that we're not really in, but I mean, our stalls are calculated as if there were people sitting and eating in that place, which they won't be.
I think they were just enough to accommodate the 2 tables outside.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a couple little, I mean, the tables outside with a couple chairs are almost more decorative. I mean, it is possible somebody can come and grab a soda and drink it out front, but it's not, I mean, this isn't an eating establishment, which is what those extra spots would be. I mean, we meet the requirement regardless, but we're also meeting requirements probably a little exaggerated for what our actual use will be, is all I'm saying.
So it requires 14 and they have 16, is that right?
Yeah, what we did is we took the general retail use of 1 per 350, applied that to the building. That said we needed 14 parking stalls and they provided 16.
Okay.
But also, where you aren't sure what the use is gonna be of those other 2 buildings, you know, the other two sites,
Mhm.
then it's.
Which would be the case with any, I mean, even if we knew what they were gonna be tomorrow, in 5 years, you don't know what they
I
would
know
be.
that.
So I mean, you'd always have to address that anytime a new tenant came in to,
Right, they'd have to make
Yeah,
sure
I
they
mean,
had
that's
adequate
just-
parking,
that would just be part of the process regardless.
right,
But you're correct, we don't know right now.
uh-huh.
That's why we just applied the retail,
Which is the height.
the other retail use category to it, so.
Mhm. Okay,
And that car might not be to scale, but is there, the way this is there room there?
They're to scale-ish, yes, there is. I mean, this is
room-
done by our civil engineer that has the little calculations of how much it takes to turn a corner and stuff like that.
So that they're right at that one, the point where they come out of the drive-through. Well, so they come through and there's a car heading out.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's 42 feet from there to the curb.
There can be cars passing.
Sure.
I mean,
It's showing 25 feet in between.
I can't read it, I might be reading the wrong number.
25.5 feet, so it's plenty for a 12-foot lane each direction.
What I'm saying is from the building to the curb is around 40. So yeah, you could have a couple of cars passing in the regular approach down to those lower spots and still have people coming out.
And it does look like there's a stop sign there, so hopefully, you've had to be creative to put a drive-through
And we
on
do
this
have a
lot.
stop sign drawn right there.
Yeah, I see that, so I
Yeah.
just, looking at this,
Yeah.
where that car is, if
We
we had
had
another
an-
one on the side, it
We had an
wouldn't- it wouldn't
amazing
fit.
site plan handled until we were informed that we had to be 40 feet off of that property line because it's in use for
So,
residential right
where
now.
do they, I mean, this is a dumb question, but where do they actually enter into the drive-through then?
Right here.
Right next to, that's why I was wondering. right next-
Okay.
Here, they come in here.
So I'm not
Just
the
go
only
around
one that wondered then, huh?
Yeah, so you're coming in here, and that is the path out. That's
The
where
driver's side of the
stop
car
sign
has
is.
to be to
They
the
go
building.
out,
They-
where, out
They
here?
come out this way. That's why, see, this is the window. They're gonna pick up their food and stuff along this face here. And then they have to pull out, and there's a stop sign there because there is a possibility of another car coming in this direction.
And then pull out from there onto
And then
State
pull out-
Street.
Pull out from there, out onto State Street.
So the actual entrance, what street is that where they actually go in then?
State Street.
Well, everything comes off State Street.
Everything comes off
Yeah.
State Street, and I guess I'm a little confused as how they, the State Street, okay, to me, it looks like they're exiting onto State Street.
Well, we're entering and exiting both
They
from,
come the same way. It's
yeah, I
just a
mean,
loop.
we're coming from State Street either way.
Okay,
That was my concern, right here, Sharon. Can cars go both ways right here? But that was my concern, so it says there's plenty of room there.
There's plenty of room.
The staff, we had that same, that's the pinch point on the property.
so you had the same questions though?
Yeah, with the 24 feet of drive aisle access, that's your city requirement. They would meet that.
Yeah. I would just be concerned that my crew cab long bed truck might have trouble making this turn.
You should be more concerned that your wife in her 22 black rimmed Escalade is gonna not make the corner and
That's true.
ruin their ends. But no, we are designing it for a full-size vehicle to get around it. I understand. And we actually have kind of room back there in the back because it's kind of useless for anything else. So it doesn't hurt us to let that bulb go back around like that. It's bigger than it looks, as far as its approachability.
I just think the cars maybe were drawn a little bit bigger than.
It is, it will be designed so that a crew cab could go around it.
Okay, so your entrance is off of State Street and your exits? in
Yeah,
the
one
same
side of us
way.
is the retirement center across the street, and the other side of us is the existing property homes over there. And the back is about a 50-foot drop to some apartments down below, so there's only one way in and out of this.
Okay.
Okay, those were my questions on it. If you can help me understand it, then anyone can.
Problem.
Okay, as far as all the architectural requirements, those are all met. And I think it looks like a really nice buildings. Now, as far as Lindon, As far as Lindon Fizz, is that similar to Swig or any of those?
Yeah,
others
Fizz
like
is
that?
a drink shop.
It's just the same
Fizz would
type
say
of
Swig
thing.
is like them, and Swig would say Fizz is like them, but yes,
Yeah,
they're
it's the
soda
same
drink,
type of
soda drink
thing.
shops. Yeah,
Yeah,
yep.
just kind of different combinations of.
Yeah.
Well, it's great that you're able to fill a small parcel. It's really not that easily
This is a
developed.
tough parcel. It
Yeah,
really
it's a
is.
tough parcel, so I'm glad that we found somebody to go in there.
Yeah.
So are you the owner or the
No,
developer?
I'm the builder developer.
Okay, okay. Any other questions? To me, it seems like it's compliant with the ordinance.
Yep.
Uh,
I'll make the motion if you're ready.
Okay,
Get back to the motion.
Excuse me?
Yes.
sure. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were here.
Yes. So can I ask you two questions?
Yes,
Okay.
if you'd state your name, that
Yes,
would be
Sonia
great.
Johnson.
If there are others that are here for this item, then please let us know. We just weren't aware.
Okay. My name is Sonia Johnson, and I own the property to the south,
Uh-huh.
the residential property in there. And I just want to ask staff a question. We have here on your landscaping standards, the last one says, any off-street parking lot adjacent to residential use or residential zone shall provide a minimum of 10 feet landscaped buffer from the parking lot to the adjacent residential use or zone. And you put in there that all parking stalls are at least 10 feet from south property line with a residential use. Is that meeting the ordinance?
So this landscaping plan is not up to date. The site plan is what is up to date. So that does provide the 10 feet. And
Of
that-
10 feet of
landscaping?
landscape?
Yeah, and that will be landscaped, so.
Okay, so then the other stalls that are down more south, more west, excuse me?
It's the stalls, not parking lot, I believe. Am I right? Is it
Yeah.
to the stalls?
Yeah.
Not to the
so-
blacktop, it's to the stalls.
Yeah, so it's 15 feet to the nearest, the closest stall.
Are we requiring a block wall there
Yes, so there is a 7-foot masonry wall.
between?
Yeah, all along that south property line is a 7-foot wall.
So just to clarify, is the city ordinance, I'm just clarifying, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying to prevent, I promise. So is it 10 feet of landscaped buffer?
Yes.
An area, yes.
Towards State Street,
Towards
yes?
State Street, where that's a drive aisle and
Uh-huh.
not parking, we didn't require the 10 feet of landscaping there.
And is there a reason why?
Because it wasn't parking, it's the drive aisle.
Parking
To
in
the
the
drive, to the drive-through, for the drive-through building.
Isn't the reason for the parking buffer is because people park and headlights shine, and on the drive-through, there's not that same issue. So I don't think the code says, I think that's what Mike's saying, is that the code is for parking.
Can I approach closer so I can see?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Maybe a little bit here.
And you can look on the screen too.
So what I'm saying is, in here, is
So
is
that-
this all landscaped? Or is
Yes.
this- Or this is landscaped on here?
Yes,
Okay, so that's not asphalt?
yes.
Is
This
that-
will
is
all
this
be
the curb-
landscaping.
Is this the curb?
That's the curb,
Okay.
yeah, so all of that
And
is
then
landscaped.
these parking stalls here, have they met the requirement for?
So they're about 20 feet from the property line,
No, they're more than.
They're more than that.
at least.
25.
Oh, yeah, there's 24 feet, so yeah, they're
So there's no city
24 feet.
requirement there for any sort of landscape?
not,
Okay.
no.
Okay. And my second question is, only because we're a very low point, right? We're the adjacent low point right here. It's a very low point. Oh, I'm sorry, my back from here. This is a low point. So the city is satisfied with the water requirements being sustained on their own on the property there?
Yeah.
They will be retaining some water there, and then I believe they've got an easement to the west, is that right?
Not through us.
Not through you guys. I believe there's an existing easement for stormwater.
No, we went through that and we decided to retain it all on site.
Oh, okay.
And David has us like 250% of the 100-year storm to make sure we all in like a storm tech system underground, which is requiring us to raise the lot up. You can see retaining walls on both sides towards the back there because we can't shed any water to their place because they wouldn't let us, so we have to retain it on site. So basically, I have to be as high in the back as I am in the front. But once we get to the back of the drive-through there, it will slope off back down to natural grade in that back kind of long triangle of dirt that's hard to do anything with. But yeah, we do have to basically bring the lot flat so that we do retain our water on our own site, because we didn't have a place to dump it.
Does that answer your question on that, or?
If the city's satisfied, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, our city engineers have reviewed their plan and we're fine with that retention.
Okay. And then if the land does go down then, it has to slope down, will the 7-foot wall be on the retained side of the property, on our side of the property? What I'm trying to figure out is, if they're gonna be higher than us at that point, am I gonna have a problem with, I mean, if they're gonna be lower than us at that point, am I gonna have a problem with my own side retaining wall?
So the fence will be a 7-foot wall at the basic grade that you're at right now.
At our grade, okay.
Yep. I will be retaining my parking lot that will be higher in the back than it is now. And there will be a space between my retaining and your fence, of, you know, a few feet or whatever is required there. So no, your fence will not be on top of my raised parking lot. Cause then it would raise it, well, I don't know if it'd raise it above you or not. It probably would raise it higher than 7 feet above your land. So, but the fence will be at your elevation, not at any new elevation. If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, because you're thinking that the land will be higher on your side of the property line than it will be on my side of the property line.
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So on your side, it could be a 4-foot fence, on my side, it's a 7.
Yeah, I mean, in most reality, if this is your property line with your 7-foot fence, it's gonna be a top of the 7-foot fence, down to your property now, come over a couple feet, up my retaining, and then my parking lot. So there will actually be a small gap between my retaining and your fence. I can't just put dirt right against your fence. So your fence will be here, your property will be here, it'll come at your property level a foot or two, and then climb back up my retaining for my parking lot.
So the fence will not serve as a barrier for that case of sight. It won't be a barrier of sight.
It may not stick up a ton above the parking lot, we just have to see where this ends up elevation-wise to make the parking lot drain proper.
Okay. So that's a concern I have, is that if we have a side view that's straight across onto their parking lot.
You're gonna have a 7-foot on your property line.
No, on our property line, he's saying,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is gonna be different height on his property line.
correct. But you still can't see over your 7-foot fence.
Right, I think her concern is that the
She
people in
still
the
could
cars can
see.
see into her backyard. Cause it's
Yeah.
raised up. I mean, I think that's what her concern is. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but I can see what her concern is.
And the lights will shine over into our area when they drive through.
What are your hours gonna be?
Higher than that. I mean,
I mean, it's kind of that, I don't know, 9 o'clock at the latest, would probably close 9 or 10 on a weekend maybe.
There's something in our code, I can't remember where it's at, that we'll have to look at, that talks about where the fence needs to be placed to protect both property owners. So we'll look at that.
I'm sure we would not have a problem putting our retaining wall on the property line and raising the fence, if staff didn't have a problem with that, and if you didn't have a problem with now your side of the fence was a 12-foot high thing instead of a 7-foot high thing. Like, I don't know that it would hurt us to move our retaining to the property line.
That might work better.
I mean, that doesn't hurt me. If it helps you, that would be great. The reality is if your side's ever developed into anything else, you're gonna be doing the same thing. Cause I don't think that drains enough to even drain your own water, let alone anybody else's, so.
Well, I think what she's concerned
But
about
I wouldn't
is
have a problem put them on top of each other.
So on this north of us, they have, there is actually concrete that goes into a corner there, and then there's a fence on top of that, because they had to be quite a bit higher than us. And that actually is preferred, because then we don't look right into their.
I think she's not wanting to see all the business operations that go on.
Yeah, so what our ordinance says is where a fence, wall, or hedge is located along a property line separating two lots, and there's a difference in grade of the properties on the two sides of the property line. The fence, wall, or hedge may be erected or allowed to the maximum height permitted on either side of the property line.
So if it was 6 on mine and it was 10 on hers, it would be okay.
That would be okay.
And if that was your preference, it would probably be my preference. It'd probably cost me less to do that.
So in
What
this,
I think that would be,
What is there existing now?
It's just a metal fence.
Weeds.
Not a metal fence, a cow fence.
Nothing of any.
That'll go away.
ink or,
Yeah. Oh,
I thought, maybe I misunderstood. I thought you said there was already a
No, I was
concrete.
talking about on the north side of us, there's a fence that's connected to the,
To the Blue Star building?
where Preston Auto was.
Right. Yeah.
And so they have their fence on top of the retaining wall there?
Yes.
Okay. We wouldn't have a problem doing it that way.
And if it's still the construction it needs to be, so we're not hurt on our side, that would be our preference.
okay, in this situation, Mike, does staff work together with the two parties on that placement?
with our ordinance, how it says it can be erected to a taller height so that it's, meets the requirement for both property owners. I'm fine with that. We can work on that as city staff.
Does that need to be part of the,
Looks
does that need to be a condition, or is it just covered by ordinance?
Looks like it's covered by the motion.
I think it's covered.
Okay,
It's kind of part of the general site approval process, I
If you
think.
want to put a general condition on there that we work together on that, then I don't have a problem. Since the applicant's willing to do that.
I've got to build a retaining either way, so it doesn't make any
How about if we
difference
just
to me.
add, the applicant will continue to work with engineering to make all final corrections to the engineering documents, including the wall to the south, the retaining wall and wall to the south.
or
Something like that.
including masonry wall to the south? Okay. Well, I appreciate you speaking up. Those are good questions when you're the property owner that is next to this. Okay, anything else? Or is there anyone else here for this purpose? Okay. Are we ready to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the applicant's request for site plan approval with the following conditions. The applicant will continue to work with the city engineer to make all final corrections to the engineering documents, including modifications to the concrete wall to the south. The plans will meet development specifications as found in the Lindon City Development Manual. Final design will meet the commercial design standards for commercial sites and buildings, and the applicant will comply with all bonding requirements if applicable, and all other items of the listed in the staff report.
okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the voting is unanimous.
Thank you.
So, be interesting to watch that go up and
We will get it done.
see how it develops. And thank you for being here. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a concept review. This is the Lindon City Park Retail at 200 North State Street. Okay, and I have the applicant is Matthew Pinder.
That's
Is that-
correct.
Is that you?
That is I.
And then who is with you?
This is Brett Jones, my partner.
Okay.
I feel like I'm testifying in front of Congress right now, guys. I'm a little nervous.
We'll try to go easy on you.
Please do.
Okay. And our presenting staff is Michael Florence.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Just a reminder that on these concept plans, you're just providing general feedback. There's no formal vote or anything with these. Now, the applicants have approached staff about putting 3 drive-through buildings uses on State Street and 200 North. The purpose this evening is mainly regarding 200 North. So the city ordinance says that unless otherwise approved by the planning commission, a landscaped berm at least 3 feet high and 20 feet wide shall be planted with grass and maintained in a living, growing condition along all public streets. So the applicants are proposing less than 20 feet along 200 North of landscaping along the public street. And so they're asking if generally how the the commission would feel reducing that landscape buffer when they apply for site plan approval.
Yes, if I may add to that, our original site plan had the drive-throughs, the drive-through lanes on the west side, so against State Street, were encroaching a couple thousand square feet into that landscape buffer. So we've been in Mike's hair the last couple months trying to figure this out, and our engineers were able to push the buildings back and set the ADA parking stalls against the east side of the development. So we've been working extremely hard to try and meet that 20-foot landscaping setback. It's just nobody on our design team was able to figure out how to do it along 200 North. Now, the way I read this, the ordinance or the code in Lindon City is that there shall be city council or planning commission can approve that variance as long as there's no net loss to that landscaping, meaning we are reallocating the landscaping elsewhere in the project where we are encroaching on 200 North. So that landscaping is not disappearing, we're just reallocating it to other parts of the project.
Do you have any idea what those businesses may be?
I do. There will be Beans and Brew right there on the south. We have another soda shop involved on Pad B, and we're in negotiations with several tenants on the north pad.
Looking at, you show double drive-up lanes. Is that because you anticipate the volume, need room for cars to stack up?
It's a shallow site, so we thought adding that extra drive-through lane, I'm sure you guys have seen it in McDonald's, and there's a number of other fast food users that use the double drive-through concept. We just figured that it would alleviate some of the congestion in that site.
So
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so the buildings, I mean, it's a small site. I mean, to get 3 buildings on there, these are fairly small buildings.
They are.
What, I mean, those are they're just small buildings. So I'm guessing building C or whatever that you're still in negotiations with is not gonna be a McDonald's or something, because there's just not room for that.
No, unfortunately, with the price of this land, we weren't able to make a single tenant drive-through work for us financially. But to answer your question on square footage, the buildings are small. That first one will be 1,650 square feet on the south side of the building. The next building will only be about 800 square feet. And we anticipate the north pad to be 1,325 square feet.
Okay. And I guess there's might be room to make them a little bit bigger, but there's not much there.
We'd love to make them bigger. That's more more rent that we can
Right.
achieve, but unfortunately with this, with the depth of this lot, and the size of it, we just can't go any bigger than what we have right now.
So, Mike, I guess if we gave this exception, it looks like they can do the 20 feet on the east side, that little tiny east portion. But, what about the berm? Can that just go away?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a ton of berms along State Street for the landscaping, and so most of them are pretty flat, what we've been approving.
Okay, so that, I mean, trying to put a 20-foot berm in a 8-foot spot or whatever, I think would be a disaster to mow. So, I just wonder if that, we can improve that also if we,
I'm a little concerned about cutting off that, it would be cutting off 12 feet on that side next to 200 North. And I think it's not just landscaping, but it's also to give a good kind of setback off the street. And 12 feet, that's quite a distance on that one side.
It is.
And so okay, that's my feelings. I'm a little concerned about taking that 12 feet off just so you can put 3 buildings on there instead of 2, which there probably really is only space for 2.
Well, there is space for 3, as you can see.
Well, yeah, if we
If you
take,
give us that variance,
yeah, but
unfortunately.
that's a big variance, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, the economics with the land basis being so high doesn't work with only 2 buildings, so we just wouldn't be able to do that, and I totally understand your concern. But again, we are reallocating that landscaping to other areas of the property.
Yeah.
What if you shifted the whole property to the north and just eliminated the double drive-through on the north lot? Because they, in reality, have the ability to have a single lot and wraps around in front of their building. So they're getting the same length for stacking up because they're on the north end. And then that would allow you, whatever we gain by losing that second driving lane, we can add to the lower portion. You understand what I'm saying? Because when they get up to that third building up north, they're not blocking anything if they're parked in front of the building on the east side. Because it's not gonna impact traffic coming in or out at that point.
Or maybe even the center one. I mean, an 800 square foot building may not need double lane drive-throughs. But here's my concern is that the home to the east of you
Yes.
has a 30-foot setback in their front yard. And so when you build your property, they're going to be looking at your back of your property in a drive-through because you're only 8 feet away from the road.
Well, I don't think they will, because we'll have that 7-foot CMU
I don't think the
wall.
7-foot wall can go all the way out to the road, can it, staff?
Blocks view,
So
doesn't it?
we'll have to measure that. It'd be 40 feet here, and yeah, it probably has to be reduced right there for sight distance.
And I know they have a real concern.
So yeah, it'd probably be reduced at 3 feet in this area.
I feel like you ought to take a look at, I'm not sure, I mean, it's a great thing to have double lanes on every building, but I'm not sure you need it.
At least on the top one.
Or in the middle.
Because in the middle, if they only had a single and it came around and traffic wrapped around toward the front of the building, it would prevent access to the north building. But if you did it on the north building, it doesn't, if it wraps around to the front of the building,
Yeah.
it doesn't prevent access to
An
anything. It's
An
just for
800 square
customers.
foot building's not gonna have,
But if that's your so delicious, that's probably the one that
That's the one that's gonna have the
will
big
have a lot of
online.
Have the
traffic.
line, huh?
Yeah, Commissioner Cowles, I think you'd be surprised at the volume of traffic in some of these smaller
Yeah.
buildings.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
We've seen
Some
it.
of these small bean and brews, they're going both ways, or there's a new, is it Dutch Brothers or whatever down in Provo?
Brothers, yeah, it's wild.
When I go to work, I mean, the line's down University Avenue
have-
with 2 driveway throughs. I mean, it's,
You could have, like on the north one, you could have a single lane on the north side of the building, a double lane on the west, and then one car at a time can only go to the window, so.
what prevents like the north one from exiting out onto State Street, or what?
No,
We don't have a approved curb cut there from UDOT yet,
Okay,
so it may be that we get denied on that. We're really hopeful, and we've had some conversations with UDOT. So far, there hasn't really been any positive or negative feedback. There's been some requirements. They've given us some tasks and some deliverables. And we do believe that we should be able to get that curb cut by right, per UDOT's requirements. I think we meet all the requirements, but again, I'm sure you guys have dealt with UDOT, you never know.
The city engineer does not want to approve this if there's only a drive approach to 200 north. If
There's a
that's,
what?
if there's only an access to 200 north, there's too much traffic going onto
Okay.
200 north. So that's been his main concern with this, that they need an access to State Street.
which makes sense.
And my concern is, especially if the only entrance, at which you said they don't want to approve it, is off of 200 north, then to have that setting that close to 200 north.
Who owns the property to the north of this parcel?
It's the same owner,
Yes.
same owner, yeah, so we're under contract on the south portion of the same owner's land.
So
You
what's up
bought it
there?
from the guy that owns the north.
We're under contract.
contract.
The gentleman's name is Steve
Yeah, you're under
Williamson.
contract. So is he going to have a curb cut, or is there gonna be one maybe in the middle that you share, or what?
So that one right there is the proposed curb cut and ingress egress into the development. It would be, we just don't know. We're dealing with
Sure.
UDOT, and as you guys know, UDOT is a nightmare, so.
Is it already 2 lots, or is it one big lot?
It's actually four.
4 lots.
Yeah, so there's 4 lots along there, from 200 north to the farthest north portion that this owner owns is four lots.
So with their site plan approval, they would also need to do a subdivision over there.
And with the circulation, one thing that we have been trying to mitigate is if we did lose the second lane on the north building, if there's a potential for it to back up into the rest of the development. And so we're trying to mitigate that, to get more cars next to the building so that there could be good ingress egress for traffic flow through the site. So that was the reason for keeping a double drive-through lane there, because as Matt mentioned, the site is so shallow that
Right.
there isn't a lot of circulation area there. So that was the reason for keeping that, or using up some of that landscape setback on 200 north.
You know, the way it is, let's say somebody's coming in on 200 north to go through the drive-through on the north building, and the line's coming out and blocking, so he has to sit there and wait. It just seems complicated.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the hypothetical.
So let's say somebody's coming in on 200 north and he wants to go to the north building drive-through. And the south building drive-through got cars in it and they're blocking the roadway. So he can't get up to the north building.
Well, I don't think that'll happen because of that double drive-through. We can stack over 15 cars in that double drive-through.
I mean, I have that same concern, because you gotta make sure there's enough of a lane between the back end of a car parked here and a car
Yeah.
sitting here.
You've gotta have a roadway.
Hot mix there on some mornings, depending on what your tenant mix is, but sometimes during the day, you might really.
Delivery truck or something is an issue.
Well, that's another bottleneck right there
Yeah.
too.
Well, delivery trucks generally for these types of tenants, load and unload during non-working hours. So they'll be there 4 or 3 in the morning or midnight.
So Mike, can I ask a question on this?
Absolutely.
Other than that strip, is everything else roughly in compliance?
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it's a bottleneck or whatever, it's really to me, that's their problem, just like the pickleball court with 4 parking stalls, you know, I think, but,
And that's not, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's not to say we don't wanna
Right.
help give what the city wants and what the city thinks the community needs. So, but yes, to answer your question, everything else is
So
in
my other
compliance.
question is on this, I mean, there's the property line that's in black,
Correct.
but it looks like out front, the way the sidewalk goes, is there extra landscaping out there?
Yeah, so what our ordinance says is we measure the landscaping off the back of the sidewalk.
Right.
So that's where their 20 feet starts.
So in the front, they'll have 20 feet, it'll narrow, is there 20 feet then right out there on the corner? I'm assuming,
Yeah, they're showing 29.
There's much more on the corner.
right, and then, I guess, where do we hit 20 from back of the sidewalk, do you know, I mean?
I'm not sure where it stops hitting 20, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So the 20-foot setback would be here, so, yeah, I'm not sure where.
I'm not sure where all that
That
is.
would be from the property line though, that would be from the
Um,
sidewalk.
So as far as feedback to them, we do, this is just a concept. We're not,
Absolutely, yeah, we're here to talk.
we're not approving anything.
Of course.
It's, so we do need to give them some feedback so they can know, you know, where we're at on it. My biggest concern is making exceptions on that 20 feet on the one side, just because it sets so close to 200 North. And I can see problems not only with that, not only do we not like to make exceptions, but I can see problems with traffic backup on that side. So that would be,
Yeah,
even though, I mean, we'd like to have Beans and Brew, we'd like to have the soda shop. I'm concerned about trying to put 3 different businesses in that small of a property. But the rest of you need to give your input.
well, I think it's important that the traffic engineer is concerned. He says he does not want to approve this, so we need to make that clear. You need to work really hard with UDOT to get that north, to get an access onto State Street. And as far as Beans and Brew, you can come down to Beans and Brew, come around your loop, and rather than going back out onto your driveway, which is gonna cause congestion, you could dump right back out onto 200 and eliminate all congestion from that particular business. See what I'm saying?
I don't, I'm sorry, I'm not
I
following.
don't think they can.
So
have
if you
that
went around,
approach,
rather
though.
than coming back and tying back into your main driveway, if you had an exit only, that just like at the corner of the southeast corner of the building, turned back out, just straight out to
Right.
200.
We point that out on the.
So you have you have an ingress egress to the east and then an exit only to the.
2, is that what you're talking
Yeah, I'm just saying, where your finger's to the left, what if right in there, you'd made a right turn out, straight out to Second Street, didn't bring them out back to tie back in with,
I would love that. I don't believe that would meet the requirements for curb cuts.
for too many
between
curb cuts.
but-
Okay, yeah, I was just trying to say that would relieve.
Yeah, I would love
Relieve some
that.
of the effort.
But just to be clear, Commissioner Thompson, the city engineer doesn't not want to approve this. He has reservation approving this without that UDOT curb cut. So
On
if we
the-
get that
On
U,
the State Street.
yes, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's an important difference to be made.
Right.
You know, here, I'll give you my feedback.
Please.
One is I think Lindon, this is what we've been begging for on State Street, is
Right.
something that will bring us a sales tax base.
Right.
That,
And a lot of it.
in an area that, honestly, State Street's been kind of an eyesore a lot for Lindon for a long time. And I think, I look at this, you say 3 buildings on such a small parcel, well, we just gave site plan approval for 3 buildings on a much smaller place with 14 parking stalls. That's my opinion. Now, we've got different types of business, right?
These are
And they-
detached.
and they
These are
did meet the
detached buildings.
ordinance. Yeah.
My personal opinion, that's not too much to give up to get something like this in the city. That's my personal opinion is, I don't think we're gonna, the price of land with everything, I don't know if they can make it work with just two buildings. I don't know. I mean, it's such a interesting lot.
It's an interesting concept too, a bunch of drive-through, that's a cool concept.
It is, and just so you guys know, these buildings are modularly built. So we have a contractor that will come in and do all the site work, the grading, pour footings, foundation.
And you need to make sure that those modular buildings you're thinking about will be approved by our staff.
Because we do require covered drive,
I mean,
you know, your
container
drive-through has to be
buildings are-
covered.
So, yeah, and so and I think I've shown you the stuff we've done in West Haven. They meet the code. They look exactly like.
West Haven's code or our code?
They will meet your code, and they look exactly like standalone buildings. It's just kind of the future of retail. We're seeing it all over the country right now because, and again, this brings our building costs down. And with the cost of construction and land right now, this is the way retail's going. It's really new and creative, and it's actually
Well, a
quite exciting.
container building, I've seen these container buildings, you know, and I don't know if that's even what you're thinking about.
No, it's not the same
But these
thing.
container buildings, that, you know, storage containers, I'm not sure that meets our code.
That doesn't, actually, we've had that conversation, and they're not storage containers.
My two bits is that, would you be better off doing two buildings, doing a bigger building and having a healthier tenant that will generate higher sales than a little 800 square foot? I mean, I think an 800 square foot building, you've set a ceiling on what you can do in sales.
Yeah,
Just my two bits.
we just finished up a building up in Ogden on 12th Street, and we put a fizz tenant, soda shop tenant in there in 1,500 square feet, and they kept asking to reduce the size of that square footage because they can't use all that space. It's just a lot of dead space in there. So they're actually asking for smaller footprints, smaller buildings, and they're generating just as much through that dual lane drive-through as they would in a bigger building.
My thought, though, is are you better off with 3 buildings and have everything jammed in there, or are you better with 2 buildings, one being a Chick-fil-A?
We'd love
Now, you're gonna do a Chick-fil-A, you're gonna have $10 million.
we love Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
An In-N-Out drive-through only.
Yeah, you guys are speaking our language, and if we could have done that on this
I
site.
use that as an exaggeration, but you can generate more sales in 2 buildings than you can in 3 if you get the right tenants.
Yep,
Do you plan to own these and hold them and lease them, or are these?
so 2 of them are, we're finishing leases, obviously, contingent on our ability to close on the property and deliver this site plan. So yeah, we're the developers, we're not the operators of the business. We will own the
Right,
roads.
but from your perspective, are you collecting more rent from 3 smaller or 2, one of them potentially being a national brand?
We're collecting much more rent on the standalone drive-through building.
Three smaller.
Than we could on, say, a end cap drive-through with 2 other tenants. We're collecting far more rent this way. And I think you brought it up, I don't know if they could do a 2-tenant development or a 2-building development here. We can't economically, trust me, we tried, we just can't make it work. That's why we had to add the 3rd building.
Even with 2,200 square feet or 2,500 square feet buildings that, you know, would fit a Starbucks or something like that, Taco Time, we couldn't make the economics work.
Yeah, when it's almost $1 million an acre, you know, our hands are tied.
It's interesting to me, just looking, like I said, it blows my mind, that Dutch Brothers, and, I mean, I think this is the concept that people are going to. They want they've created something, and I don't know how long this fat will last. I don't know how long, we'll see, but something small with not very much space, right? I mean, a drink shop, they have to have a few soda fountains and a stack full of cookies or something to give out, and that's all, they don't need space, right? And it's expensive to the tenant.
A lot of overhead for that.
It's a lot of overhead.
Yeah,
So-
I suppose bigger buildings with dining would require more parking. too,
Right, I think you start putting bigger buildings and you got more parking requirements and.
So, but it sounds like what it comes down to too is whether you can get approval from UDOT for that entrance off of State Street, is that right?
That's correct.
Well, and this setback here.
The setback for us, yeah, yeah.
The challenge is always when we do it here and somebody else asks for the,
That's why it's so
Variance,
hard to
then
make
they're
exceptions
gonna
to
use you as
everything.
an
That's
example
right.
and.
I won't tell anyone.
They'll just-
know.
They'll see it. They'll see it on their own. But the first time they come to the park.
No, but I mean, I think you, and again, I'm not a city planner or a commissioner, I'm sure that the burden of that is arduous, but I think probably, like, Commissioner Johnson said, you may wanna weigh the, opportunity cost of having Beans and Brew and what kind of value a development like this could bring to the city as well.
And I guess, you know, we just went through, I guess I want my commissioners to tell me where I'm way off base here, but we just approved that trees don't have to be every 30 feet because it's a car lot, because we want those to be visible, and that's gonna be a great sales tax generator for the city.
But the total number had to be there, though.
And their total number's here.
Total number is here.
They've
They have
got all
the
this,
square footage.
they've got more than what we're requiring on, you know, we've got all this extra green space. I mean, we've got way more. We've moved it, but it's, so that's to me, I guess, convinced me. I mean, the only argument that I see that bothers me at all about this is the Keaches next door. I think it's not the Keaches' daughter.
Foxes now.
Is it the Foxes now? Or,
Well, that plus,
you know, who are, you know, we have to be considerate of that situation and how we can mitigate that. And I think there's ways we can mitigate it.
Absolutely.
That's, to me, that's the biggest problem. As I look at this, I'm struggling to see the difference. But I'm open to my fellow commissioners to tell me why this is different than low book sales, or why this is different than
well, I think
some of
it's-
the others.
Yeah, I think it's a little different because you got traffic from 3 businesses coming in off of 200 North. It's gonna be, if the state were to give them an exit out at the north end of their building onto State Street, it could work. You'd still have the setback problem on Second North.
But he's saying what,
I'm saying, as this is proposed and as it looks, right, and that's what they're asking for.
Right.
It's just the concept.
Is a concept. If they get that and they can build this the way it is, my vote would be yes. Okay, that's what I'm saying, because I think that they have mitigated it in other ways. And that's my point of view, and I'd love to hear why
Just
that would
concerns
be.
about the traffic.
Traffic
I also,
control and the setback.
But,
Too
but I
simple.
guess the traffic, as I was asking Mike, if they didn't have the setback, we're not arguing about the traffic.
right.
Yeah, but don't we have a responsibility to make sure that
Well, I
we
think
don't
I am.
create a monster with that?
And that's what we've done with double drive-throughs, is our traffic engineers and our civil engineers and the folks that we work with have set up a site plan that, you know, we hope won't cause a nightmare and be congested, and that
Yeah,
was
that's
the
what
double
we're
drive-through.
concerned
That's the hope, but I think you're gonna have all that traffic. You know, you may think that those delivery trucks are gonna come at 3 in the morning, they're not. They're gonna come when they wanna come, and it's gonna be, you know, 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're gonna have cars backed up there to Bean and Brews, and you're gonna have all that traffic for 3 businesses, delivery trucks and everything, coming through one little drive-through on the backside of the property with no exit to State Street. That's a problem to me.
Right,
But that's what I'm saying.
And we did get I mean, we roughly got some positive feedback from UDOT that
Good.
we're within the boundary line of past 200 feet that we could get that access.
Sure.
So it is likely, I think the main point of topic for this meeting would be that setback
Yeah.
situation.
Right.
As long as we can get that from UDOT, if we got that and came in for site plan approval, how would
Right, I mean, actually, honestly, if they don't get that from UDOT, they just bump everything up and we have to pass it. I mean,
Why do you,
No,
why
wait,
do
what
you
do you
say
mean?
that?
What do you mean?
if this road's gone, right, they could move the whole development up
Right. And have the setback on second.
have the setbacks
And then we
meet,
would approve it.
Sure.
and then it probably
Then it's in
meets
compli-
code,
Then it's in
Absolutely.
compliance.
that's in compliance, and
And then they just have to deal with the traffic.
they have to deal with the traffic. I know the city engineer
The
might
city-
have to say something
I
like
don't
that.
know if we.
I don't know if it's
approve that.
compliant, but that's what, I guess, to me, that's important that it's there, and that's the plan they're bringing to me.
Yeah,
Um,
and to your point, Commissioner, my ears did perk up when you guys allowed some movement on the trees on the low book sales, because I think that, that situation pertains to our site plan as well. We are not meeting that setback. We've worked really, really hard to meet that 20-foot setback on State Street, really hard. We were able to do it. We thought that was gonna kill the deal altogether, but we were able to be in compliance on State Street. But again, there's no net loss, there's more than enough landscaping, and there's certainly no net loss, and you guys did approve that on low book sales.
So,
You're doing the very thing we're saying why we don't wanna do a setback. You did it on low book sales, so
right,
And then you
But-
put
somebody's
it
gonna
on-
come after you and say, you set back 8 feet with these guys.
The low book sales guy told me on his way out.
so,
He's gonna be telling
I
everyone.
won't tell anyone.
There is a difference between moving 3 trees and a setback. I mean,
Yeah,
How
and
much-
we let people shift their
I'm
trees
just looking,
around
if
all the
you- if you
time.
look
That's part
at-
of the ordinance.
if you look at some of the other areas of the city, you know, if you go down to more of our newer development here, and you look at some of these corners now, you know, this is a private street here into Walmart, so they don't have the 20 feet, cause that's a private street, into here.
Well, you're not up against a resident. That's the problem.
Yeah, but the ordinance says 20 feet along any public street, and these are private, so they don't meet it here, but they, you know, they do meet it on 700 North and State. Lowbook meets that.
When you go north, just,
That's not our, past 800 North is, or 700 North is not us.
okay, so that 800 north on the east side,
Sorry, this is us here, but the Rock Canyon's not.
what about that parking there on one, is it, I can't see, is that 1,000 or 800 west or 1,000, right there? That
Yes.
parking, that doesn't seem to be 20
No,
feet.
I don't think Arctic Circle's in Lindon.
It's not.
it's a little weird spot of
Pleasant
Grove.
Grove.
Oh, okay.
But,
So 550, looks like you've got it. The Pizza Factory is an existing property.
right, that isn't close to the,
200 North, again, Taylor Drug is existing, but I don't know what, these look like less than 20, well, I don't know, maybe that,
No, that's a bike path, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bike path, it looks like.
yeah.
Or no, that's actually the trail, the Linden
Yeah, the
Bay,
trail that goes
the Bay
underneath it.
Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, goes through the park. And that's what's interesting too, is we do have a park across the street. So as far as greenscape and stuff,
I mean, so we're talking about the one home there, which we should consider, but that's,
And to that point, with, you know, creating some type of a barrier there, we could put in more trees along that to try to help.
I mean, you gotta have your clear view though, as you're,
Anything we
exiting
can
the
do with that,
property.
that we're happy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to work with the residents.
I mean, they have, those trees are on their property there, right?
no.
These few right here?
I think you cut most of those down, haven't you? Or somebody did.
I think these small ones
you
are
came
still
in and
there.
cut down a bunch of them.
He did,
Yeah,
he
the
did a
owner
lot of clearing. I think there are still some trees that are on our property, but he cleared a lot of that.
I guess where is the property line there?
Oh, yeah, so see, a lot of those trees you were seeing have been cleared.
There are quite a few, it looks like, or at least some that are on his property line.
so I think maybe, you know, just go through real quick and general feedback, yes or no on the 20-foot setback, and let them come back, take that and come back with, and knowing this is informal.
Yeah.
My thoughts here, I would want to, and it sounds like the city engineer's thinking that way too, I would want to make sure you have the entrance off of State Street before I would even consider that. decreasing that requirement, the 20%, the 20 feet. So that's where I'm at on.
Yeah, I would say I'm not a hard no, but I lean toward, we always get this, people coming back to us. I mean, so if the overall site plan, you do modifications, you get it done with UDOT. I'm sort of like Steve, I think, you know, if we could develop some tax revenue there, however, you know, I hate it when they come to us and say, why'd you
made
do
an
it for them?
exception for them.
Why'd you do it
I
for them
totally
and not
understand
for
that.
us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, we're sort of at a tough spot on the planning commission, because our job is basically to interpret the ordinance
Sure.
and make recommendations based on whether it complies with the ordinance. So it's really not our position to be in here just making up rules or laws, you know, or you know, to our preference.
Right,
So,
but I
but we
guess
do have exceptions.
we have this exception. and
Right,
we've
we
been
do have
given-
exceptions, and we do have that authority, so we would just have to be able to articulate to the future people why this was different than them.
Absolutely, yeah, it is in the code that it's not like we're asking for something
Yeah,
that is
so
outside.
I'm
the
not a hard
ordinance.
no, I'm concerned about it, but I'd have to see the overall
Sure.
final
course.
plan.
And we'd want to for sure make sure that your buildings were in compliance with our code.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'd work with staff on design and all that kind of stuff.
Here's just another thought. Crazy thought here, but with that road, with the approach, any thought of being able to share that with the property owner? So have the road half on your property and half on his, so you can just bump everything up.
Which road are you talking
I
about?
think that's already,
This, if you go up, scroll up the top,
When
right?
State
The approach
Street-
from State Street.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah, and that's what we'll be hopefully doing, but
What they're
again,
proposing,
it's in
right?
UDOT's hands.
Right, but I guess, is there any way to push that up
We
6 feet?
Push that burden onto, no, unfortunately.
Have more of that approach on the other property?
He's a hard no, is that because
You
of?
wanted to retain at least an acre on the north side.
And if
This
you
is
do-
currently what you're buying is this dotted dashed line, but you're talking that will be moved up to the
Yeah,
middle of
and
the
that
line.
will create future, yes, to answer your question, yes, and that is because, if we are able to develop the south acre, that will allow, access for the north acre
Right.
as well in the future, and,
Shared maintenance.
yeah, exactly.
So there isn't much of a chance of getting that extra 2 or 3
Shoving it,
feet?
no, unfortunately not.
Jared, do you have anything else? And then we've probably given you what feedback we can.
yeah, I mean, if the reasoning to approve this is economics, I think that's, you know, from your standpoint, that's a good rationale, but it's not, I see the economics and the benefit for the city to approve 3 versus 2, and that's great, but we've had this discussion a lot lately about, oh, I can't pencil this out unless I put, 10 units per acre or whatever. I mean, so we can't make decisions. There's gotta be, I think, a better rationale for me to say yes to it than it just doesn't work for us because if we only do 2. Do you see what I'm saying? So that argument, I think, it's gotta be something stronger than that for me.
Yeah, and I mean, that, at the end of the day, that's it, if, like, again, we can't make it, so
And we hear that.
it goes away.
We do hear that quite a bit.
We're not trying to.
So it
pressure you,
either you don't do the project or you do, and that's the risk that we would take by not saying yes. So
Sure,
you
and-
maybe walk away from the
I
contract.
don't feel like we're trying to hold your feet to the fire, we're just here to get feedback. The economics are what they are, it's very binary.
Right.
It either works or it doesn't.
Right.
Like there's no development that our company can't live without, so we're here in hopes to get this done. We think it'd bring a lot of value to the community and we think it's a solid development, so please don't think that we're here to hold your feet to the fire, it's this or us. 'Cause that
No,
is
and you're
us.
not the only one to do that. I just say we hear that all the time, and I think it's gotta be a stronger argument than that for maybe,
Yeah, it's not
us
even
to
an
approve
argument
this.
on our end, we're just asking for feedback on that variance, is all, there's no argument.
Can I ask maybe, how much did you encroach on State Street, the buildings the other way?
Mike has the old site plan.
Well,
I mean, would it,
The problem was, it was more that they weren't calculating the area between they weren't measuring their landscaping from the back of the sidewalk, they were measuring it from the back from the property line. And so that's why they were asking, they weren't meeting the 20 feet of landscaping along State Street.
Well,
With their other plan?
The other plan, and then they had so they used to have 3 parking stalls behind each building here as well. So because of where they can measure their landscaping, they were able to play with that.
Mike, do you have our old site
I don't know if
plan
I
handy?
do. Let me,
I guess that what I'm saying is, would that be more
And
easier to give a variance on State Street than on 200? Because it's next to a residence. I'm just
that's a great question.
pondering.
That's a great question.
Would we rather, if instead of 20 feet, we're at 18 on State Street? I don't know how much
Well, if
it
you
would
look at
cost.
it,
Well,
there,
actually, no, the 200 north variance wouldn't change.
Oh, either way.
Either way.
Okay.
We would just be encroaching a heck of a lot more on State Street.
Okay, well
And
then,
based off your feedback today, I think that's a dead concept.
you can see this, their building has to be set back 20 feet.
okay.
But these drive approach areas
So it's
here,
the same concept, just where you've moved things.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Okay.
that answers my question.
I think we've
Real-
given you.
real quick, Rob, I don't know if I didn't write anything down. Wondered,
I feel very much like Jared feels,
okay.
almost the same. I mean, to me, you put all your eggs in one basket. First of all, you got 3 buildings with 3 drive-throughs. Maybe you do 2 buildings with drive-throughs and 1 without. I don't know, there's some other options there somewhere.
We will continue to run down
Okay.
all options.
Maybe a small retail shop, I don't know, retail is hard, but
It's tough because especially after COVID, everybody
I
wants to
know.
drive through. And not only do they want 1, they want 2 now. It's,
I've noticed,
yeah.
Well,
noticed the
big-
trend,
the
they're
big
opening
box.
up like a Taco Bell drive-through. They're
Yeah.
not even,
National
they're not even,
concept wants
yeah,
to.
they're
I
not
mean,
even, they're not even doing it.
Frankly, I haven't seen too many locals that are requesting to.
Yeah.
And that is an idea of maybe one of those shops, or those
Maybe you just go with your,
businesses isn't a drive-through.
and what if you went with one that didn't have a double drive-through, and then you've picked up your,
Yeah. You have to pick and choose which tenant goes in there without a double drive-through, you know.
Yeah, the first 2 we've obviously already committed to.
Correct.
but
The third one's the only one
we
that's
can,
still-
absolutely, that's a great suggestion. We will run
Right.
that down.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
Well, appreciate you coming in, and
Yeah, thank you
we
so
hope
much,
you can
Commission.
get things worked out with UDOT, and hope you can work things out so we can feel good about it too.
Yeah, if you have a recipe for UDOT, please let us know. 'cause
It seems like everyone that comes in has that same frustration.
It's just, the wheels turn very slowly.
turn slow, but I bet you getting one is a pretty good chance.
From everything I've studied of UDOT, we meet all their requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just bring some crumble cookies with us next time we meet with them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Commission, thank
Well,
you very much.
thank you
We
so much
appreciate
for
your time.
Thank you for your
in.
time, you guys.
Hope you
Have a
can
great
find
evening.
a way to make it work.
Yeah,
We
we
will.
hope so. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're under the planning commissioner's reports, and the only thing that I really have is that I believe it is Anders last night with us, is that right? That's right. And you're off, and this is just a little card from the planning commission to you, just letting you know how much we appreciate it. Well, thank you. And a little Roxbury.
All right, well, I
Dream place.
Remind me again where you're going?
let me know.
So I'm gonna
Texas
go to
A&M.
school at Texas A&M.
Okay.
College Station, Texas, so I'll be in there.
Well, we appreciate you very much. You can take your wife for a treat
Well, yeah, I appreciate your.
at the drink drive-through. So it's been,
Appreciate all of you and learned a lot from all of you.
you've done a great job for Lindon City. We wish you the best, yeah. And then the only other thing I have is that that August 17th, Planning Commission meeting, I know Renee will not be here. I don't know if Mike, I guess he could be online, Mike Marchbanks, if he's having his surgery now. Steve, I didn't know when all your weddings are.
That's the week, the first one's on the 14th, the second one's on the 20th, so that's the week in between. If I'm still standing, I will.
So you can be here for that
I
meeting.
think I mean, I'm not gonna be out of town, I will be.
Might be a nice break.
But is it the 17th, because that's the 3rd? So
That's the
we
second. I mean, it's a Tuesday.
It's the 3rd Tuesday, usually we're on the 2nd.
Because I'm out of town that next week.
We,
So
I
that's why
think,
we
okay,
moved it.
so we moved it to the 17th. Okay.
Yeah,
What about the rest of you?
yep.
As far as I know, I should be able to be here. I'm here.
I mean,
Okay. Okay. That was just a question. That is a hard week for me, but I can make it work, especially if we need it to make a quorum.
Okay.
Have you found someone to replace it, Anders?
I
Or are
have
you
not.
taking on that load?
Trying to work on that.
In between doing all
I'm
this.
we have not had very many applicants, so I've been very surprised. So,
What is the position?
it's for a planner 2 position. So, I think I've had 4 applicants, so. But I think there's,
Here, do you think, a little bit, or?
I don't know, I think there's 8 city planner jobs open right now, and so I don't know. I know we're having, other positions too in cities are being hard to fill, so.
Well, we hope Lindon's competitive, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have anything else. Mike, if you want to. Just this APA conference that's coming up. Some of you have been to those before. I have indicated I'd like to go. Those are a really good opportunity.
If we get 3 of you to go, we get a better rate, but, no pressure. It's only
Huh?
$30, so.
What are
It's September
8th and 9th, it was a
9th
Thursday
and
and
10th?
Friday, or 9th and 10th, yeah.
9th and 10th.
Where is it at this time, up in Salt Lake? probably?
Taylorsville,
Taylorsville? September 9th and 10th.
so,
The
and
way
you,
they're doing that, it seemed like in the past, some of the past years, they had just like Friday was kind of your citizen planner day, but from what Mike's telling me, it doesn't save the city any expense to just sign you up for one day, so that kind of makes it so you can go to what you can go to.
I can't commit yet.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of my
start of
vacation I'm
school.
gonna use for these weddings. We'll see how that all pans out.
if you could just let me know by August 10th.
Okay,
That's
I'll know
the-
by then.
August 10th is a deadline for the early registration where we would save some money,
Okay.
but, so.
Okay, I don't have anything else. So if you don't,
No, that August 17th has the potential to be a big meeting, so I know you've got a lot going on.
What's big about it? What's on the,
Maybe the storage units, again, could be another item as well, so.
okay. Well, let's make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
seconded?
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
We are adjourned.
Okay, the voting is unanimous. Well, thank you to everybody, and thank you to you for being here
Oh, you're
with
welcome.
us.